The mysterious discovery. Lyra always loved exploring. Her world was vast, filled with glowing plants and strange creatures. She had spent her whole life on this planet, but something inside her always felt different. She could never explain it, but sometimes she had dreams of places she had never seen before, places with bright blue skies, towering metal buildings, and creatures that looked almost like her, but not quite. One day, while walking near the old ruins deep in the forest, she felt something strange. A soft hum, like a whisper inside her chest. It wasn't normal. It made her heart race. She placed her hand over her chest, feeling a warmth that wasn't there before. Then she saw them, the creatures from her dreams. They were different from anything she had ever seen in real life. They had smooth skin, 2 eyes, and only 1 mouth, just like her. But their clothes were strange, tight, metallic-looking suits with glowing parts. They held strange devices that blinked with lights, scanning the area. Lyra felt her body freeze. Who were they? Why did they look like her? Were they dangerous? She hid behind a large tree, watching them closely. They spoke in a language she couldn't understand at first, but then something clicked in her mind. The words started making sense, as if she had always known them. "This is where the signal came from," one of the humans said. "Are you sure?" "It's been buried for centuries," another replied. "It activated 2 days ago. Something triggered it." Lyra didn't understand what they were talking about, but something deep inside told her it was important. Then, without warning, the humming in her chest grew stronger. A bright blue light flashed from her body. The humans turned instantly, their eyes wide with shock. What was that? The signal. It's coming from. The human stopped mid-sentence and pointed. Her. Lyra gasped. How did they know? What was happening to her? The humans moved closer, carefully, as if they didn't want to scare her. One of them, a woman with short black hair, knelt down and spoke softly. "Don't be afraid," she said. "We won't hurt you, but we need to talk. Something is inside you." Lyra's breath caught in her throat. "Inside me? What are you talking about?" The humans exchanged nervous glances. The one with black hair pressed a button on her wrist device, and a small floating machine appeared beside her. It scanned Lyra, beeping rapidly. The woman's eyes widened. It's true. The device is inside her body. Lyra shook her head. "That's impossible. There's nothing inside me." The man beside the woman, a tall figure with a scar on his cheek, crossed his arms. "Then how do you explain the signal? It's coming from you. And that means you are connected to it." Lyra's heart pounded. She had never felt so confused in her life. The dreams, the strange energy, the way she understood their language. Was it all connected? "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman gave a small smile. "We are humans. We come from a planet far away. But a long time ago, some of our people came here. And now, we think you might be one of us." Lyra's eyes widened in shock. That couldn't be true. She was an Ilmari, born and raised on this planet. She had never even seen these humans before today. But deep inside, something told her they were right. Before she could ask more, the floating machine beeped again, louder this time. The scared man frowned. "Something's wrong." The woman checked her device, her expression turning serious. "Oh no." Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. What's happening?" The woman took a deep breath. The signal, it didn't just wake up this device. It sent a message into space. Someone else heard it. The scared man's voice was grim. "And they're coming." Lyra felt her whole world tilt. Who was coming? And why did it feel like her life had just changed forever? The alien and the human connection. Lyra couldn't sleep that night. The words from the strange humans echoed in her mind. "It's inside you." She lay in her small home, staring at the glowing ceiling, her heart racing with confusion and fear. What did they mean? How could something be inside her without her knowing? Outside, the twin moons of her planet, Ilmaris, shone brightly. The gentle hum in her chest, which had started when she met the humans, hadn't gone away. In fact, it was growing stronger. It pulsed with a rhythm, almost like it was alive. By morning, Lyra knew she couldn't ignore it. She had to find the humans again. She needed answers. The forest was quiet as Lyra made her way back to the place where she first saw them. The air felt heavier today, as if the planet itself knew something had changed. When she reached the old ruins, the humans were still there, setting up strange equipment that blinked and buzzed. As soon as they saw her, they stopped. The woman with short black hair, the one who spoke kindly to her, stepped forward. Her name was Dr. Mara. "You came back," Dr. Mara said softly. Lyra nodded, trying to hide the fear in her eyes. "I need to know what's happening to me." Dr. Mara exchanged a glance with the scared man, whose name Lyra had learned was Captain Riker. He didn't trust her, Lyra could tell. His sharp eyes watched her every move, as if he expected her to be dangerous. Dr. Mara gestured for Lyra to sit. "We'll explain everything we know. But first, we need to check something." She pulled out a small device that looked like a glowing crystal and held it close to Lyra's chest. As soon as it was near, the crystal lit up, brighter than before. "It's responding to you," Dr. Mara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This device, it's called the Helix Core. It's one of the most advanced pieces of technology humanity ever created. But it was lost centuries ago when a mission to this planet disappeared." Lyra frowned. "How can it be inside me? I don't remember anything like that." Captain Riker finally spoke, his voice gruff and serious. "Because it wasn't meant for you. The core was designed to bond with a human host, but only under special conditions. If it's inside you, that means—" He paused, his eyes narrowing. "You might not be entirely alien." Lyra felt her heart skip a beat. "What do you mean?" Dr. Mara took a deep breath. "We think you might have human DNA. Maybe one of the humans from the old mission. They didn't just crash here. Maybe they survived. Maybe they started families." Lyra shook her head. "That's impossible. I'm Ilmari. I've always been Ilmari." Dr. Mara smiled gently. "Sometimes history hides the truth. You might be more connected to us than you realize." Before Lyra could respond, the ground beneath them trembled slightly. The hum in her chest grew louder, and the floating machine from yesterday, the scanner, started beeping wildly. Captain Riker's face darkened. "The signal. It's attracting something." Dr. Mara checked her device, her face going pale. "Oh no, it's worse than we thought." Lyra stood up, panic rising in her chest. "What's happening?" Dr. Mara's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "The core inside you, it didn't just activate. It sent out a beacon. And someone, or something, out there heard it. They're on their way here." Lyra's mind spun. "Who are they?" Captain Riker answered, his voice low and grim. "They're called the Khazur, a ruthless alien race that hunts advanced technology. They destroy worlds to get what they want. And now, they're coming for you." Lyra's breath came in short gasps. This couldn't be real. Just 2 days ago, her life was simple. She explored the forests, talked to her friends, and dreamed of adventures. Now she was being told she had something inside her that could attract deadly enemies from across the stars. "But why me?" she whispered. Dr. Mara placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Because you're special, Lyra. The core chose you. And now we have to figure out why." Suddenly, the scanner let out a sharp, piercing beep. Captain Riker's eyes darted to the sky. "They're closer than we thought," he muttered. "We don't have much time." Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She had so many questions, but there was no time for answers. The only thing she knew for sure was that her life would never be the same again. Dr. Mara grabbed her arm. "We need to leave. Now." As they rushed toward the human ship, Lyra glanced back at her home, the forests, and the glowing skies she had known her whole life. But in that moment, she realized something deep inside her had changed. She wasn't just an Ilmari anymore. She was something more. And whatever was coming, it was coming for her. Secrets of the past. The human ship hummed quietly as it soared above Ilmaris' glowing forests. Lyra sat in silence, staring out the window. The world below, once her entire life, now felt distant, like a memory fading faster than she could hold on to it. Her heart raced with the weight of everything she'd learned. Inside her chest, the helix core pulsed softly, matching the rhythm of her heartbeat. It was a constant reminder that her life wasn't normal anymore. She wasn't just an Ilmari girl who loved exploring ancient ruins. She was something else, something connected to these humans and their lost technology. Dr. Mara sat beside her, tapping away on a sleek tablet. Captain Riker, ever the skeptic, stood by the controls, his sharp eyes flicking from the screen to Lyra every few seconds. He didn't trust her. Lyra could feel it in the way he spoke, the way his hand hovered near his weapon. But Lyra didn't trust herself either. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, breaking the heavy silence. Dr. Mara looked up from her tablet. "To our base. It's in orbit around your planet. We need to learn more about the core inside you. It's the only way to understand what's happening." Lyra nodded, though the answer did little to calm her nerves. She turned her gaze back to the window. The stars above twinkled, and for the first time in her life, she wondered if one of them was where she truly belonged. The ship docked with a quiet clunk as it connected to the larger human vessel orbiting Ilmaris. As they stepped inside, Lyra was overwhelmed by the sterile metallic walls, the cold air, and the strange humming of machines everywhere. It was nothing like her warm, vibrant planet. Dr. Mara led her through long hallways until they reached a room filled with glowing screens. On the largest one, a symbol flashed, a spiral shape, glowing faintly blue. Lyra felt her chest tighten. The same spiral had appeared in her dreams for years. "What is that?" she asked, pointing to the screen. Dr. Mara's face softened with a mix of curiosity and concern. "That's the symbol of the Helix Project, the mission that brought humans here centuries ago. The mission that disappeared." Captain Riker crossed his arms, his voice gruff. "Until now." Dr. Mara gestured for Lyra to sit in a chair surrounded by strange, floating lights. As soon as she did, the lights began to scan her, and the spiral symbol pulsed faster. The hum in her chest grew louder, like it was responding to the ship itself. Suddenly, the screen flickered. Static filled the room, and then a hologram appeared. Lyra gasped. A woman stood in the projection, her features sharp and clear. She had long, dark hair, deep green eyes, and a calm expression. But what shocked Lyra the most was how familiar the woman looked. "She looks like me," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Dr. Mara's eyes widened. "That's Captain Ilara Voss. She led the Helix Project over 300 years ago. But she vanished. No one knew what happened to her." The hologram began to speak, her voice smooth and confident. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the Helix Project. If you're seeing this, then the core has been activated. It means our mission failed, and the Khazor have found us." Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. The Khazor, the same name the humans mentioned before. The ruthless alien race hunting for advanced technology. Ilara's voice continued, growing more urgent. "The core holds the key to survival, but it must bond with the right host. If it's inside you, then you are the last hope for both our people and this planet." The hologram flickered, then cut off. Silence filled the room. Lyra sat frozen, her mind racing. Captain Ilara Voss wasn't just a random human. She was connected to Lyra, through time, through blood. Dr. Mara finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Lyra, I think you're her descendant. You're part human." Lyra shook her head, her heart refusing to accept it. "No, that can't be true. I'm Ilmari. I've always been Ilmari. Captain Riker stepped forward, his expression serious. Your people might have mixed with the survivors of the Helix project. That would explain why the Corps chose you. You're the bridge between our worlds. Lyra felt like the ground beneath her had vanished. Everything she knew about herself, her people, her past, it was all crumbling. But deep down, a small voice whispered that it made sense. The dreams, the strange energy, the way she understood their language, it was all connected. Before she could process it, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and a robotic voice echoed through the halls. Warning! Unidentified vessels approaching. Khazor ships detected. Dr. Mara's face paled. They found us. Captain Riker grabbed his weapon, his eyes sharp. We need to move. Now. Lyra stood, her body trembling but her mind suddenly clear. She didn't have all the answers, but one thing was certain. The Khazor were coming for her, and if what the hologram said was true, she might be the only one who could stop them. As they rushed through the ship's hallways, Lyra felt the hum in her chest grow stronger. It wasn't just fear. It was something more, something powerful. For the first time, she realized that the Corps wasn't just inside her. It was part of her. And her journey was only beginning. The threat awakens. The cold metal walls of the human ship vibrated with the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed along the corridors, casting eerie shadows on the crew as they scrambled to their stations. The ship's voice echoed through the halls, calm and robotic despite the danger. Unidentified vessels approaching. Khazor fleet detected. Estimated arrival: 15 minutes. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest, matching the pulse of the Helix core inside her. She ran beside Dr. Mara and Captain Riker through the twisting hallways, her mind spinning with fear and confusion. Just days ago, she was exploring the forests of Ilmaris, dreaming of ancient secrets. Now she was running for her life from an alien race she'd never heard of, with a mysterious device inside her that everyone claimed could change the fate of the galaxy. They reached the command deck, where the massive viewing screen displayed a chilling sight. Dark, jagged ships emerging from the shadows of space. The Khazor fleet was unlike anything Lyra had ever seen. Their ships weren't sleek like the humans. They looked like monstrous, metallic creatures, with spiked hulls and glowing red engines that left a trail of darkness behind them. They're faster than we thought, Captain Riker muttered, gripping the edge of the console. His scared face was tense, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. We don't have much time. Dr. Mara tapped furiously on the controls, her face pale but focused. They must have been closer than we realized when the signal went out. They'd been waiting for this. Lyra stood frozen, staring at the screen. Why are they coming for me? I didn't do anything. Riker turned to her, his voice grim. It's not you they want. It's the Helix core inside you. The Khazor have been hunting advanced technology for centuries. They don't just take it. They destroy entire worlds to make sure no one else can use it. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. So, they'll destroy Ilmaris too. Dr. Mara's eyes softened with sympathy. If they think your planet is hiding the core, they'll wipe it out without a second thought. Lyra felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. Her home, her people, everything she'd ever known, was now in danger because of her. No, she whispered, shaking her head. I won't let that happen. But before anyone could respond, the ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and the AI's voice returned, louder this time. Warning. Enemy weapons locked. Impact in 10 seconds. Captain Riker snapped into action. Brace for impact. The ship rocked violently as the first wave of Khazor missiles hit. Lyra was thrown to the ground, her head slamming against the cold metal floor. Pain shot through her skull, but she forced herself to stand, gripping the edge of the console for support. We can't outrun them, Dr. Mara shouted over the noise. Their ships are too fast. Riker's jaw clenched. Then we fight. Lyra's chest burned as the helix core pulsed stronger than ever. She could feel it waking up, responding to the danger. It wasn't just a device. It was alive, and it was connected to her in ways she couldn't understand. What if? What if I can stop them? She whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Dr. Mara turned to her, eyes wide. What do you mean? I don't know, Lyra admitted, her voice trembling. But the core, it's reacting to them. Maybe there's something I can do. Captain Riker shook his head. We can't risk that. If the core gets damaged, it could kill you. Or worse, it could destroy this entire ship. But Lyra wasn't listening. She closed her eyes, focusing on the hum inside her. It wasn't just a sound. It was a language, a feeling, a connection. She could sense the Khazor ships, their cold, hungry minds reaching out for the core. But she could also feel something deeper, something buried within the core itself. It was like a door, waiting to be opened. Without thinking, Lyra placed her hand on the console. A surge of energy shot through her, and the entire ship lit up with a brilliant blue glow. The Khazor ships paused, their weapons suddenly going dark. What the hell is she doing? Riker shouted, but Dr. Mara grabbed his arm. Wait. Look. The viewing screen showed something incredible. The Khazor ships, once aggressive and menacing, now drifted in space, their engines flickering like dying stars. The helix core was sending out a new signal, one that confused and disrupted the Khazor's technology. They're retreating, Dr. Mara whispered in awe. But Lyra wasn't done. The energy surged through her body, stronger than ever. Her mind filled with images, memories that weren't hers. She saw Captain Ilara Voss, the woman from the hologram who looked like her, standing in a similar room centuries ago, activating the core for the first time. She saw the Khazor attacking their ship, and Ilara making the ultimate sacrifice to protect her crew. But this time, Lyra wouldn't have to make that choice. With a final push of energy, Lyra sent a powerful wave through space, forcing the Khazor ships to retreat even further. The connection snapped, and Lyra collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Dr. Mara was at her side in an instant. Lyra, are you okay? Lyra nodded weakly, her body trembling from the effort. I think so. Captain Riker stared at her, his suspicion replaced by something else. Respect. You just saved us. But Lyra knew it wasn't over. The Khazor had retreated for now, but they'd be back. And next time, they wouldn't just be looking for the core. They'd be looking for her. As the ship drifted quietly through space, Lyra realized that her journey was far from over. She didn't fully understand the power inside her, but one thing was clear. The helix core had chosen her for a reason, and whatever that reason was, it was only just beginning to reveal itself. Race against time. The Khazor had retreated, but the tension aboard the human ship was thicker than ever. The crew worked silently, their faces pale, their movements sharp and hurried. No one dared to believe the danger was truly over. Lyra sat in the medical bay, staring at the small glowing device floating above her chest. The helix core. It had saved them, but at what cost? Her body ached from the surge of energy she'd unleashed. It felt like every cell in her body had been stretched to its limit. And yet, the core still pulsed inside her, alive and restless. Dr. Mara hovered nearby, scanning Lyra with a handheld device. Her brows were furrowed in concentration, but her hands trembled slightly. Lyra could see it. Even the calm, collected scientist was shaken. How are you feeling? Dr. Mara finally asked, her voice soft, but filled with worry. Lyra tried to smile, but it came out weak, like I got hit by a starship. Dr. Mara chuckled, but the worry didn't leave her eyes. You did something incredible back there. You forced the Khazor to retreat. But she hesitated, glancing at the readings on her device. But what? Lyra pressed, her heart pounding. Dr. Mara sighed. The core is becoming more active. It's bonding with you at a deeper level. That's why you were able to control it. But it's also why we can't remove it. Lyra's heart sank. You said we might be able to take it out. We thought we could, Dr. Mara admitted. But now, if we try, it could kill you. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. The core wasn't just inside her, it was her. And there was no going back. Before she could process this, the ship's alarms blared again, and the cold, emotionless voice of the AI filled the room. Warning. Khazor fleet detected. Approaching at high velocity. Estimated arrival. 10 minutes. Dr. Mara's face went pale. They're back, and faster this time. Captain Riker's voice crackled through the comm system. All crew to battle stations. Dr. Mara, bring Lyra to the command deck immediately. Dr. Mara helped Lyra to her feet, but Lyra could feel the weight of the core pulling at her, as if it knew the Khazor were near. They rushed through the narrow corridors, the lights flashing red, the ship vibrating with the rising tension. When they reached the command deck, the viewing screen showed a terrifying sight. The Khazor fleet was larger than before. Dozens of jagged, spiked ships filled the space around them, their glowing red engines like eyes watching, waiting. They brought reinforcements, Riker muttered, his face a mask of grim determination. We can't fight them all, Dr. Mara whispered. Riker turned to Lyra. Can you do it again? Can you push them back? Lyra shook her head, fear tightening her chest. I don't know. It felt like the core barely managed last time. And now, it's different. It's like it's fighting me. Riker cursed under his breath. Then we need another plan. Dr. Mara's eyes lit up with a sudden idea. What if we don't fight them? What if we run? Riker raised an eyebrow. Run. In case you haven't noticed, they're faster than us. Not if we use the core, Dr. Mara said, her voice growing excited. The core isn't just a power source. It's also a navigation system, far more advanced than anything we have. If Lyra can connect with it, she might be able to activate a wormhole and get us out of here. Riker's eyes narrowed. That's a big if. It's our only chance, Dr. Mara shot back. Lyra swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their gazes on her. The fate of everyone on this ship, and maybe her entire planet, rested on her shoulders. She didn't feel ready. She didn't feel capable, but she also didn't have a choice. I'll try, she whispered. Dr. Mara guided Lyra to the center of the command deck, where a circular platform glowed faintly. The ship's systems were already connected to the core, but now, they needed Lyra to become the bridge. Close your eyes, Dr. Mara instructed gently. Focus on the core. Don't fight it. Let it guide you. Lyra took a deep breath and did as she was told. The hum in her chest grew louder, and soon, it wasn't just a sound. It was a feeling, a presence, alive and ancient. She reached out with her mind, searching for the connection. At first, it resisted her, pushing back like a stubborn door refusing to open. But Lyra didn't give up. She thought of Ilmaris, of her family and friends, of the forests and glowing rivers she'd explored her whole life. She thought of the people on this ship who were counting on her. And slowly, the door began to open. A flood of images and sensations rushed into her mind. Star maps, coordinates, alien symbols that somehow made perfect sense. The core was showing her the way. She just had to trust it. I see it, she whispered. I know where to go. The ship's systems responded instantly. The lights brightened, the engines roared to life, and the viewing screen displayed a swirling vortex of light forming ahead of them. A wormhole, Dr. Mara breathed in awe. But before they could move, the Khazor ships surged forward, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. They're trying to stop us, Riker shouted. We need to go now. Lyra pushed harder, pouring every ounce of her strength into the core. The wormhole grew larger, but the Khazor were closing in fast. Their weapons fired, and the ship shook violently as explosions rocked the hull. We're not going to make it, someone screamed. But Lyra refused to give up. She screamed, channeling all her fear and determination into the core. The wormhole flared, pulling the ship forward just as the Khazor ships unleashed their final barrage. With a blinding flash of light, the ship shot into the wormhole, leaving the Khazor behind. Silence fell over the command deck as the crew stared at the swirling colors outside the windows. They were safe, for now. But Lyra knew the Khazor wouldn't stop. They'd follow her to the ends of the galaxy if they had to. And next time, there might not be a way to run. Humanity's last stand. The wormhole closed behind them with a thunderous boom, leaving the Khazor fleet trapped on the other side. At least for now. But the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, filled with the unspoken truth that this escape was temporary. Lyra could feel it in her bones, in the persistent hum of the helix core inside her chest. The Khazor weren't just hunters. They were relentless predators, and they wouldn't stop until they had what they came for, the core. The ship drifted through an unfamiliar star system, the distant suns casting a cold, eerie glow across the command deck. The crew moved like shadows, their faces drawn tight with exhaustion and fear. They had escaped death for now, but their future was uncertain. Lyra sat in the center of the room, her body still weak from channeling the core's power. Every breath felt like a struggle, but she couldn't rest. She wouldn't rest. Not when so many lives depended on her. Dr. Mara hovered nearby, her face pale but determined. She checked the readings on her tablet, her brows furrowed in deep concentration. Captain Riker stood at the helm, his scared face etched with worry. The tough, unshakable soldier now looked like a man grappling with the weight of impossible decisions. "We can't keep running," Riker finally said, breaking the tense silence. His voice was low, steady, but there was a sharp edge to it. "The Khazor will find us again. And next time, they won't let us escape." Dr. Mara nodded, her eyes flicking toward Lyra. "Then we need to find a way to stop them. But we can't do that unless we understand why the core chose her." Riker turned to Lyra, his gaze piercing. "The core responded to you like it knew you, like it was waiting for you. Why?" Lyra shook her head, frustration bubbling in her chest. "I don't know. I didn't ask for this. I didn't even know about the core until you showed up. But it's inside you," Riker pressed. "That means you're connected to it in ways we don't understand." Lyra's heart pounded. She wanted to have the answers, but all she had were more questions. The only clue they had was the hologram of Captain Ilara Voss, the human woman who looked just like her. Could Ilara's past hold the key to understanding the core? Before anyone could say more, the ship's eye interrupted, its voice calm but urgent. "Incoming transmission detected. Origin unknown." Riker's eyes narrowed. "Put it on screen." The viewing screen flickered to life, revealing a face that sent chills down Lyra's spine. It was a Khazor. The creature had dark, scaled skin, with glowing red eyes that burned like fire. Its face was a grotesque mix of alien and mechanical, as if parts of its body had been replaced with cybernetic enhancements. When it spoke, its voice was deep and guttural, sending vibrations through the ship's walls. "Surrender the helix core, or face total annihilation." The threat hung in the air like a heavy cloud. The Khazor wasn't bluffing. They meant it. Riker's jaw clenched, his hand tightening around the edge of the console. "We're not surrendering anything." The Khazor's eyes glowed brighter, and a sinister grin spread across its face. "Then prepare to die." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a suffocating silence in its wake. Dr. Mara turned to Riker, her voice trembling. "We can't fight them. Not like this. We need help." Riker nodded. "There's only one place we can go." Lyra frowned. "Where?" Riker's eyes darkened. "Earth." Lyra's heart skipped a beat. Earth, the planet of her ancestors, the place she'd only seen in dreams and holograms. But could Earth really help them? And what would they find there? The journey to Earth was tense and silent. Every crew member knew they were racing against time. The Khazor would follow, And when they did, there would be no escape. As the blue and green sphere of Earth came into view, Lyra felt a strange mix of fear and wonder. It was beautiful, unlike anything she'd ever seen. But beneath that beauty lay the answers she desperately needed. The ship landed at a hidden human base, deep underground, shielded from the Khazur's detection. As they disembarked, Lyra felt the core inside her react, its pulse growing stronger with every step she took. They were greeted by a group of scientists and soldiers, their faces filled with shock and curiosity when they saw Lyra. One of them, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "I'm General Herrick," he introduced himself, his gaze fixed on Lyra. "We've been waiting for you." Lyra's heart pounded. "Waiting for me? Why?" The general led them to a large, dimly lit room filled with ancient artifacts and holographic records. At the center of the room was a massive display of the Helix Project, the mission that had brought humanity to Ilmaris centuries ago. General Herrick pointed to an old hologram. It showed Captain Ilara Voss, standing proudly beside the original Helix core. "This is your ancestor," Herrick explained. "She was chosen by the core because of her unique genetic makeup, a blend of human and something else, something ancient." Lyra's mind raced. "But I'm not fully human. I'm Ilmari." The general nodded. "And that's why the core chose you. Your unique heritage makes you the perfect bridge between our worlds." The core wasn't just designed to power ships, it was designed to unite civilizations, but the Khazur want to use it to control or destroy them. Lyra felt the weight of his words settle over her. The core wasn't just a weapon or a tool. It was a symbol of hope or destruction. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the base. "Warning. Khazur fleet detected. Estimated arrival. 5 minutes." General Herrick's face hardened. "They found us." Captain Riker turned to Lyra, his voice firm. "This is it, Lyra. You're the only one who can stop them. The core chose you for a reason." Lyra's heart pounded, but she nodded. She didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't run anymore. She had to fight. As the ground trembled and the walls shook from the approaching Khazur fleet, Lyra stepped forward, the core inside her glowing brighter than ever. This was humanity's last stand, and she was ready. The truth revealed. The ground trembled beneath Lyra's feet as the first wave of Khazur ships descended from the sky. The underground base echoed with alarms and the hurried footsteps of soldiers scrambling to defend their last stronghold. But amidst the chaos, Lyra stood still, feeling the steady pulse of the Helix core inside her chest. It wasn't just a hum anymore, it was a roar, like a living heartbeat synchronized with the fate of two worlds. General Herrick barked orders, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "Get the perimeter defenses online. We need to buy time for Lyra." Captain Riker stood at Lyra's side, his eyes sharp, but for the first time since they met, there was something else in them. Trust. "Whatever you're going to do, kid, now's the time." Lyra nodded, though her heart pounded in her chest like a drum. She didn't know exactly what she was supposed to do, but the core inside her did. It was guiding her, pulling her toward something bigger than herself. Dr. Mara approached, handing Lyra a small device that fit perfectly in her palm. "This will help channel the core's energy. But be careful. This much power could destroy you if you're not ready." Lyra closed her fingers around the device, feeling its warmth spread through her hand and up her arm. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew she didn't have a choice. The ground shook violently as explosions rocked the base. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling, and the lights flickered. The Khazur were here. "They've breached the outer walls," a soldier shouted over the comms. Lyra felt a surge of determination rise in her chest. She wouldn't let the Khazur destroy Earth. She wouldn't let them destroy Ilmaris. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone. "Take me to the core chamber," Lyra said, her voice steady. General Herrick nodded, leading the way through the crumbling hallways of the base. They moved quickly, dodging falling beams, and the sounds of battle growing louder behind them. When they reached the chamber, Lyra's breath caught in her throat. The room was vast, with a towering structure in the center, a larger version of the helix core, pulsing with the same blue light that glowed inside her. It felt familiar, as if she had been here before, though she knew she hadn't. "This is the original helix core," Dr. Mara explained, her voice filled with awe. "It's connected to the one inside you. If you can merge with it, you might be able to stop the Khazor." Lyra stepped forward, feeling the core's energy pulling her in like a magnet. She raised the device Dr. Mara had given her and placed it against the glowing structure. Instantly, a surge of power shot through her, and her vision blurred. Suddenly, she was somewhere else. She stood in a vast, endless space filled with stars and swirling lights. In front of her was a figure, a woman with long, dark hair and deep green eyes. It was Captain Ilara Voss. "Lyra," the woman said, her voice soft but powerful. "You've come far." Lyra stared at her, her heart pounding. "Who are you really? Why do I look like you?" Ilara smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Because you are my descendant. When the Helix project crashed on Ilmaris, we thought we were lost. But we survived. We adapted. We became part of your people. The core was designed to bond with someone who carried both human and Ilmari DNA. Someone who could unite both worlds. That someone is you." Lyra's mind raced. She was the bridge between two civilizations, the product of both humanity and Ilmaris. It all made sense now. "But the Khazor," Lyra whispered. "How do I stop them?" Ilara's expression grew serious. "The core isn't just a weapon. It's a key to knowledge, to peace, to power. The Khazor fear it because it represents something they can't control. But you can. You have the strength to channel its true purpose. But it will take everything you have." Lyra felt a lump rise in her throat. "Will I survive?" Ilara's eyes softened. "That's up to you." Lyra blinked as she returned to the chamber, the weight of Ilara's words heavy on her heart. The ground shook violently beneath her feet as the Khazor forces closed in. She took a deep breath and placed both hands on the core. The energy surged through her, hotter and stronger than before, but she didn't fight it this time. She embraced it. The core's light exploded, filling the chamber and spilling out into the base. The Khazor forces froze, their weapons dropping from their hands as the energy wave washed over them. Lyra felt their presence in her mind, their fear, their anger, their confusion. But she also felt something else, their weakness. They were driven by fear of losing control, fear of the unknown. She pushed back, sending a wave of peace and unity through the core's connection. The Khazor screamed, their ships and weapons disintegrating in the light. The ground trembled one last time before everything fell silent. Lyra collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. The core's light dimmed, settling into a soft, steady glow. Captain Riker and Dr. Mara rushed to her side, their faces filled with relief and awe. "You did it," Riker whispered, helping her to her feet. Lyra nodded weakly, feeling the weight of exhaustion settle over her, but there was a warmth in her chest, not just from the core, but from something deeper. She had found her place, her purpose. General Herrick approached, his eyes filled with respect. "You've saved us all, Lyra. Both Earth and Ilmaris owe you a debt we can never repay." Lyra smiled, her heart light despite the heaviness of her body. "I didn't do it alone." As the sun rose over the horizon, casting its golden light over the battered Earth base, Lyra knew her journey wasn't over. She was the bridge between two worlds, and there was still so much to discover. But for the first time, she felt ready. She looked up at the stars, her heart filled with hope. "Maybe," she whispered to herself, "I'm more human than I thought."